The meeting was supposed to be a formality. By the time I walked into the dimly lit basement of a Brooklyn warehouse, the decision to join had already been made. They needed me, and frankly, I needed them. Not for money, I had plenty of that. It was the thrill of the challenge that brought me here. Sitting at the head of the room was the mastermind behind the operation, Marcus, a former Wall Street trader turned rogue hacker. His sharp suit and carefully gelled hair looked out of place in the shabby surroundings. Beside him was Sasha, the tech prodigy who could code circles around most people I'd ever worked with. She leaned back in her chair, her dyed purple hair glowing faintly under the buzzing fluorescent lights. Then there was Reed. He was the muscle of the group, though not in the traditional sense. His role wasn't to intimidate physically, but to enforce loyalty through fear. Reed didn't just know your secrets. He knew how to destroy you with them. As I took my seat, Marcus gestured at the screen behind him, where a stock market dashboard blinked in red and green. "Glad you could join us, Carter," he said, flashing a grin. "Let's get straight to business. We're about to pull off the biggest market manipulation in history." I folded my arms, leaning back. "You've got my attention." Marcus clicked a button, and the dashboard was replaced by a network diagram of Wall Street servers. Here's the deal. The market relies on a network of servers that process millions of transactions per second. We're going to hack into those servers and introduce fake transactions. The goal isn't just to make money. It's to move the market itself. "Pump and dump," I said, nodding. "Classic. But this level, it's never been done." "Exactly," Sasha chimed in. "We're not just talking about inflating penny stocks. We're talking about shifting blue chips, creating chaos, and walking away with billions before anyone realizes what happened." I glanced at Reed, who hadn't said a word yet. He was watching me, his expression unreadable. "And my role?" "You're our linchpin," Marcus said. "We've built the infrastructure, but we need someone with your skills to break the final layer of encryption. Once you're in, Sasha takes over to execute the transaction scripts. Reed will handle external threats, and I'll coordinate the timing to ensure everything aligns." I smirked. "Sounds easy enough. What's the catch?" "The catch," Sasha said, "is that failure isn't an option. If we get caught, it's not just prison. It's game over. The SEC, the FBI, every government agency you can think of, they'll be on us like vultures." Reed finally spoke, his voice low and gravelly. "And if anyone gets second thoughts, let's just say, there won't be time for regrets." I felt a chill but masked it with a grin. "Good to know. When do we start?" "Tomorrow night," Marcus said. "The servers go offline for maintenance at 2 a.m. That's our window. You'll have exactly 30 minutes to do your part." I nodded, already running through scenarios in my head. 30 minutes was tight, but not impossible. "All right, I'm in." Marcus clapped his hands. "Good. Welcome to the team." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my desk, staring at the monitor as lines of code blurred together. The plan was audacious, reckless even, but it was also brilliant. If we pulled it off, we'd go down in history, not as criminals, but as legends. Yet something didn't sit right with me. Reed's veiled threat had been clear enough, but it was more than that. It was the way Marcus had smiled, the way Sasha had avoided my eyes. This wasn't just a job to them, it was personal. I pulled up the team's profiles, piecing together what I knew. Marcus, disgraced after a trading scandal, had nothing to lose. Sasha, brilliant but volatile, had been fired from a top cybersecurity firm. And Reed, well, no one seemed to know much about Reed. He was the wild card. As I closed the files, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "Watch your back." I stared at the screen, my heart racing. The message disappeared before I could screenshot it, leaving me with more questions than answers. Was it a warning, a threat, or something else entirely? I shut the laptop and poured myself a drink. Whatever was coming, I needed to be ready. The following night, I arrived at the warehouse an hour early. Marcus was already there, pacing the room as he barked orders into his headset. Sasha was at her station, typing furiously, while Reed leaned against the wall, watching me as I entered. "You're early," Marcus said, hanging up the call. "Figured I'd get a head start," I replied, taking my seat. Sasha glanced at me, her fingers never leaving the keyboard. "Hope you're ready." Once this starts, there's no turning back. I was born ready, I said, forcing a smile. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just about hacking into a server. There was more to this plan, something Marcus wasn't telling us. And I was determined to find out before it was too late. As the clock ticked closer to 2 a.m., the tension in the room grew palpable. We were standing on the edge of something monumental, and all it would take was one misstep to send us crashing down. For better or worse, the countdown had begun. At exactly 1:50 a.m., the room fell silent. The hum of the servers and the clicking of Sasha's keyboard were the only sounds as Marcus outlined the final steps. The monitors in front of us displayed real-time activity from Wall Street's network, the glowing interface resembling a pulsating heartbeat. "All right," Marcus said, his voice steady. "The servers go down for maintenance in 10 minutes. That's when we move. Carter, you'll initiate the breach as soon as the system enters its vulnerable state." "Got it," I replied, already pulling up my tools. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, itching to begin. Marcus turned to Sasha. "Once Carter's in, you'll execute the scripts. Make sure they run cleanly. No errors." Sasha rolled her eyes. "Don't worry about me. Just make sure your boy Wonder here doesn't choke." I shot her a smirk. "You just focus on your end, genius." Reed, standing in the corner, cracked his knuckles. "Enough chatter. Let's get this done." The countdown hit 0. The moment the server logs showed the network going offline for maintenance, I dived in. My screen filled with cascading lines of code as I bypassed firewalls and security layers. The first wall fell within seconds, a testament to my preparation. But the second was trickier, a dynamic encryption that adjusted based on user activity. "Sasha," I called out, "I'm hitting resistance on layer 2. It's adaptive." "Hold on," she said, sliding her chair over to glance at my screen. "Ah, that's new. They must have updated their protocols." "Can you handle it?" Marcus asked, his voice tight. "I can handle anything," I said, focusing on the task. "Just give me a minute." Time ticked by as I navigated the defenses, each layer more sophisticated than the last. I was in the zone, every keystroke deliberate, every line of code a step closer to the prize. "Layer 2 breached," I announced, feeling a rush of adrenaline. "Moving to layer 3. Marcus nodded, his eyes never leaving the monitors. "Good, stay sharp. This is where it gets tricky." Layer 3 was a fortress. The encryption was unlike anything I'd seen before. An interlocking series of firewalls designed to collapse the system if tampered with. One wrong move, and the entire operation would be exposed. I felt the weight of their eyes on me as I worked, my fingers flying over the keys. The room was tense, the air thick with anticipation. "How's it going?" Sasha asked, her voice unusually soft. "Almost there," I muttered, my focus unwavering. And then, it happened. The final barrier crumbled and I was in. The mainframe lay open before me, a digital treasure trove waiting to be exploited. "Access granted," I said, leaning back in my chair. "You're up, Sasha." "Finally," she muttered, sliding into place. Her hands moved like lightning, executing the scripts she'd spent weeks perfecting. One by one, the fake transactions were introduced, inflating stocks and shifting markets with surgical precision. Marcus watched the monitors intently, his face a mask of concentration. "Good. Everything's proceeding as planned." But something felt off. As I scanned the logs, a line of unfamiliar code caught my eye. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it didn't match anything we discussed. "Hey, wait a minute," I said, my heart racing. "What's this?" "What's what?" Marcus asked, turning to me. "This line of code, it's not part of the plan. Someone's inserted something else." Sasha froze, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. "That's impossible. I wrote these scripts myself." "Check it," I said, my voice sharp. "Now." She quickly analyzed the code, her eyes widening. "He's right. This isn't mine." Reed stepped forward, his face darkening. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means someone's playing us," I said, my mind racing. "This isn't just about market manipulation. This code is designed to trigger an alert. If it runs, we're screwed." Marcus cursed under his breath. "Can you remove it?" "I can try," I said, already diving into the logs. "But it's embedded deep. Whoever did this knew what they were doing." The room was silent except for the sound of my keyboard. Time was running out and the pressure was mounting. Who would sabotage us? Sasha asked, her voice trembling. Marcus didn't answer, his gaze fixed on the monitors. Just focus on fixing it. I worked as fast as I could, isolating the rogue code and neutralizing it line by line. Sweat dripped down my forehead as the minutes ticked by. Got it, I said finally, leaning back with a sigh of relief. It's neutralized. Good, Marcus said, his voice cold. Now finish the job. Sasha resumed her work, but the tension in the room was palpable. Someone had tried to sabotage us, and the question of who and why hung heavy in the air. As the final scripts executed, Marcus turned to Reed. Find out who did this, and when you do, take care of it. Reed nodded, his expression grim. Consider it done. I exchanged a glance with Sasha, who looked as unsettled as I felt. Whoever had betrayed us was still out there, and we were running out of time to figure out their next move. For now, though, the plan was back on track. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the real danger was just beginning. The sense of relief that had washed over us after neutralizing the rogue code was short-lived. As Sasha finalized the scripts and confirmed the fake transactions were live, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that we were being watched. Something about the sabotage didn't sit right with me. Someone on the team had to be behind it, and the thought made my skin crawl. All right, Marcus said, standing over Sasha's shoulder. The scripts are running clean. Carter, I need you to monitor the secondary servers and ensure there's no backdoor activity. I nodded, pulling up the necessary logs. On it. Reed leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his gaze scanning each of us like a hawk. We need to talk about the elephant in the room. Who planted that code? Sasha spun her chair around to face him. Why don't you tell us, Reed? You're the one always talking about contingency plans. Maybe this was one of yours. Watch your mouth, Reed shot back. If I wanted to blow this operation, you'd know it. Enough, Marcus said sharply, his voice cutting through the tension. This isn't the time to point fingers. We need to finish the job first. Once we're clear, we'll figure out who's responsible. Sasha rolled her eyes but turned back to her monitor. Whatever you say, boss. I focused on the logs, scanning for any anomalies. The fake transactions were holding steady, but the deeper I looked, the more uneasy I became. It wasn't just the sabotage. There were signs of external activity, faint traces of an unauthorized connection attempting to latch onto the system. Marcus, I said, my voice low. We've got a problem. He was at my side in an instant. What is it? Someone's trying to access the network from outside. It's subtle, but it's there. Marcus's jaw tightened. Can you block them? I can try, but whoever this is, they know what they're doing. They're piggybacking on our connection. If I shut them out too abruptly, it might raise a flag. Do it carefully, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. As I worked, Sasha glanced over at us. What's going on? External intrusion, I said without looking up. Nothing you need to worry about. Yet. Great, she muttered. First sabotage, now this. It's like someone wants us to fail. Just focus on your part, Marcus said. Carter will handle it. The minutes ticked by as I isolated the unauthorized connection and began redirecting it into a decoy network. It was a delicate process like defusing a bomb, and the tension in the room was palpable. Almost there, I murmured, my fingers flying over the keyboard. Better hurry, Reed said. We don't have all night. Done, I said finally, leaning back with a sigh of relief. Connection redirected. They'll think they breached the mainframe, but all they'll find is a sandbox environment. Marcus clapped a hand on my shoulder. Good work. Now let's finish this. But as I watched the monitors, something caught my eye. A brief flicker in the system logs, so quick I almost missed it. It was the rogue code again, buried deep in the backup server. Marcus, I said, my voice tight. The rogue code, it's back. He swore under his breath. How? I don't know, but it's on the backup server. If it activates, it could alert the authorities. Sasha's head snapped up. What? I thought you neutralized it. I did, I said, frustration creeping into my voice. But whoever planted it must have installed a secondary trigger. Can you remove it? Marcus asked. I'm trying, I said, diving into the backup logs. But this one's even more sophisticated. It's like it's evolving. Reed paced behind me, his heavy boots echoing in the small room. This is bad. If we get made, we're not getting made, Marcus said firmly. Carter will handle it. I ignored the pressure and focused on the task, my hands moving faster than ever. The rogue code was like a virus, spreading through the backup server and integrating itself into the system. It was a race against time, and I couldn't afford to lose. Come on, I muttered under my breath. Seconds turned into minutes, each one feeling like an eternity. Finally, with one last line of code, I isolated the virus and purged it from the system. It's gone, I said, slumping back in my chair. Good, Marcus said, his voice a mix of relief and determination. Now we move to phase 2. But as I glanced around the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that the real danger wasn't over. Someone on the team was playing a dangerous game, and it was only a matter of time before their true motives came to light. Phase 2 was where the real magic began. Up until now, all we'd done was preparation, positioning ourselves to pull the heist. Phase 2 meant direct action, triggering the chain of fake trades, siphoning funds from targeted stock accounts, and creating enough chaos to mask the money's disappearance. It was the point of no return. The team gathered in the main room, lit only by the glow of multiple monitors. Marcus stood at the center, a commanding presence as always, his voice cutting through the tension. Listen up, he said. From here on out, there's no room for error. Sasha, you'll execute the algorithm to inject the fake data into the Wall Street servers. Carter, you'll monitor the feedback loops and ensure there's no ripple effect that could expose us. Reed, he turned to him. You'll run interference in case there's an external threat. Everyone clear? We all nodded, though the weight of the plan pressed down on me. The rogue code incident had rattled me, and the signs of an internal betrayal lingered in the back of my mind. Whoever planted that virus was still among us, and I had to stay sharp. Sasha cracked her knuckles and sat down at her station. Let's get this over with. She began typing, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she activated the custom-built algorithm. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, a symphony of numbers and commands orchestrating our deception. Algorithms live, she announced, injecting the first set of fake trades now. On my monitor, I watched the activity in real time. Stock values fluctuated as our false data infiltrated the system, creating the illusion of massive trades between shell companies. It was beautiful in a way, a perfectly executed ballet of digital manipulation. Looking good so far, I said. No anomalies detected. Marcus leaned over my shoulder. Keep it that way. Sasha glanced at him. You act like I'm the one who messed up before. No one's pointing fingers, Marcus said. Just stay focused. She muttered something under her breath, but returned to her work. I couldn't help but notice the tension between her and Marcus. It wasn't new, but it seemed to be bubbling closer to the surface. Reed, meanwhile, paced near the doorway, his laptop open and connected to the network. He was running interference as planned, monitoring external threats and ensuring no one noticed our intrusion. We've got chatter on a private security channel, Reed said. Looks like someone's noticing irregularities in the stock market. Can you block them? Marcus asked. Already did, Reed replied. But it won't hold forever. We need to move fast. Sasha typed furiously, her brow furrowed. Second wave of trades is going through now. Carter, how's the feedback loop? I scanned the data. Holding steady. No signs of ripple effects yet. Marcus nodded. Good. Keep an eye on it. The moment something goes wrong, I want to know. But something was wrong. I just didn't know what yet. There was a subtle discrepancy in the data, a pattern that didn't match our usual activity. It was like a ghost in the machine, invisible yet present. Marcus, I said, my voice low, we've got an issue. He was at my side in an instant. What is it? I'm seeing irregular activity in the shadow accounts. Someone's skimming off the top. What? Sasha spun her chair around. That's impossible. The system's airtight. Apparently not, I said. Look at this. I pointed to the screen, showing the discrepancies in the account balances. Marcus's expression darkened. Reed, are you seeing this? Reed walked over, his face unreadable. Yeah, I see it. Someone's skimming from the accounts. Sasha glared at him. You're the one monitoring external threats. How did you miss this? Don't start with me, Reed shot back. If anyone's to blame, it's you and your airtight system. Enough, Marcus said, his voice cutting through the argument. This isn't the time for blame. Carter, can you trace it? I'm trying, I said, digging into the logs. The skimming was subtle, almost elegant in its execution, but I was determined to find the source. Minutes passed in tense silence, the only sound the rapid clicking of keys. Finally, I found it, a hidden subroutine embedded in the algorithm itself. It's coming from the algorithm, I said. Someone modified it before we deployed it. Sasha's face went pale. That's not possible. I built that algorithm myself. Then someone got to it after you did, Marcus said. He turned to the group, his eyes cold and calculating. Which means it was one of us. Reed crossed his arms. Here we go again. I'm serious, Marcus said. Someone's trying to sabotage us, and I want to know who. The room fell into silence, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. I scanned each of their faces, searching for a clue, a tell, but they all wore the same mask of anger and suspicion. Whoever it is, Marcus continued, better come clean now. Because if I find out later, it won't end well for you. No one spoke. The silence stretched on, heavy and oppressive. Finally, Marcus shook his head. Fine, he said. We'll deal with this later. Right now, we finish the job. Carter, can you neutralize the subroutine? I nodded. I think so, but it'll take time. Then get to it, Marcus said. The rest of you, stay on task. We're not letting this derail us. As I worked, I couldn't shake the feeling that the betrayal was closer than any of us realized. Someone was playing a dangerous game, and I was determined to find out who before it was too late. The tension in the room was suffocating as I delved deeper into the corrupted algorithm. The subroutine was sophisticated, far beyond the work of a novice. Whoever wrote it wasn't just skilled. They were an insider, someone who knew our system intimately. That narrowed the suspects down to 4. Marcus, Sasha, Reed, or me. The irony didn't escape me. For all I knew, I could be chasing shadows left by one of Marcus's contingency plans, or worse, Sasha's insurance policy. Trust was a fragile thing, and in our line of work, it was as rare as it was dangerous. Status update, Carter, Marcus demanded from across the room, his arms crossed like a drill sergeant inspecting his platoon. I've isolated the subroutine, I said, keeping my voice steady. But whoever coded this knew what they were doing. It's designed to reroute funds in microtransactions, almost impossible to detect unless you know exactly where to look. Can you shut it down? Sasha asked, her voice sharp. Working on it, I said. But it's not just about shutting it down. If I rush this, the subroutine could trigger a failsafe that exposes us. I need more time. Marcus frowned but nodded. Take what you need. Just make sure it's clean. Reed, pacing again, muttered under his breath. Clean. Yeah, that's rich coming from this crew. What's that supposed to mean? Sasha snapped, swiveling in her chair to face him. Reed stopped pacing and glared at her. It means one of us is already dirty. We've got a rat in the team, and you're all acting like it's business as usual. Maybe because it is business as usual, Sasha retorted. Until we know who's behind this, pointing fingers doesn't help. It's funny you'd say that, Reed said, his voice dripping with sarcasm, considering the subroutine came from your precious algorithm. Sasha stood, her chair screeching against the floor. You want to say that again? Enough, Marcus barked, stepping between them. We don't have time for this. Carter's handling the problem. The rest of you, focus on your tasks. Sasha and Reed exchanged venomous glares but backed down. I returned to my screen, but their argument replayed in my mind. Reed's accusations weren't baseless. Sasha's algorithm was the entry point. But if Sasha was the saboteur, why stick around and risk being caught? It didn't add up. Minutes passed like hours as I carefully dismantled the subroutine. Sweat beaded on my forehead as I navigated the labyrinthine code. One wrong move, and the whole system could collapse. Finally, I found the heart of the subroutine, a hidden command string designed to self-destruct if tampered with. I've got it, I announced, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. But this is tricky. If I'm right, I can disable it without triggering the failsafe. If I'm wrong... Don't be wrong, Marcus said, his voice cold and unyielding. No pressure, I muttered under my breath. Taking a deep breath, I entered the command sequence. The room seemed to hold its breath with me as I hit enter. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the subroutine dissolved, the rogue code vanishing from the system like smoke dissipating in the wind. It's done, I said, leaning back in my chair. Relief flooded through me, but it was short-lived. But there's something else. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What? I hesitated, knowing what I was about to say could ignite another firestorm. The subroutine wasn't just about skimming, it was leaving a digital breadcrumb trail, one that could lead straight to us. The room erupted. Sasha cursed under her breath, while Reed punched the wall. Marcus remained silent, his face a mask of barely contained fury. Whoever did this wasn't just greedy, I continued. They were planning to sell us out. Marcus turned to Reed and Sasha. One of you has something to say? Don't look at me, Reed said, his tone defensive. I've been on defense the whole time, remember? And I've been running the algorithm, Sasha said, which means I couldn't have planted the subroutine. But you, Reed, you had access to the network. Are you kidding me? Reed shot back. You're the one who… Stop, I interrupted, slamming my hand on the desk. This isn't solving anything. Marcus, we need to move now. The fake trades are still active, but the longer we wait, the higher the risk of exposure. Marcus nodded, his eyes hard. Agreed. Sasha, continue deploying the trades. Reed, keep monitoring for external threats. Carter, you're with me. Where are we going? I asked. To find out who betrayed us, Marcus said, and to make sure they don't get away with it. The weight of his words settled over me as we left the room. In the hallway, Marcus turned to me, his voice low. You know who it is, don't you? I hesitated. I have a suspicion, but I need proof. Then get it, he said, because if you're wrong, it won't just be the plan that falls apart. It'll be this team. As we walked toward the server room, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The betrayal wasn't just a theoretical threat. It was here, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. And if I didn't uncover the truth soon, the fallout would destroy us all. The server room was cold and eerily quiet, save for the hum of the machines. Marcus stood beside me, his arms crossed, his eyes scanning every corner of the room like a hawk. My fingers danced over the keyboard as I combed through the logs, looking for anything that would solidify my suspicions. Every file, every access point, it was all there, buried in the data. Talk to me, Carter, Marcus said. What are you seeing? Give me a second, I replied, my voice tense. This log, it's encrypted. Whoever did this left breadcrumbs, but they didn't make it easy to follow. Marcus leaned closer. Can you crack it? Eventually, I said, but I need time. We don't have time, Marcus said, his tone sharp. If we don't figure this out before the trades hit critical mass, we're done. No second chances. I nodded, my focus unwavering. The encryption was good, damn good, but I was better. Slowly, piece by piece, I unraveled the code until finally the file opened. What I saw made my blood run cold. It's Reed, I said, barely above a whisper. Marcus's jaw tightened. You're sure? I turned the screen toward him. See for yourself. These timestamps match the exact moments the subroutine was uploaded. And look, he accessed it from his personal terminal. There's no way he can deny this. Marcus's eyes darkened as he stared at the evidence. I knew it. I knew he was too volatile to trust. What now? I asked, my heart pounding. Do we confront him? Marcus shook his head. Not yet. If he knows we're onto him, he could blow the whole operation. We need to play this smart. Just then, the door to the server room creaked open, and Sasha stepped in. Her eyes flicked between the two of us, her expression guarded. What's going on? She asked. I hesitated, glancing at Marcus. He gave me a slight nod, and I decided to come clean. We found the mole, I said. It's Reed. Sasha's eyes widened. Reed, are you serious? Marcus stepped forward. Dead serious. Carter found the proof. He's been playing us, Sasha. The subroutine, the breadcrumbs. It was all him. Sasha looked shaken, but then her expression hardened. What do we do? We keep this quiet, Marcus said. For now. Sasha, go back to the main room and act normal. We'll handle Reed. She hesitated, then nodded and left the room. As soon as the door closed, Marcus turned to me. Here's the plan, he said. We'll set a trap. Reed thinks he's in control, but we'll make him slip up. When he does, we'll have all the leverage we need. And if he doesn't slip up, I asked. Marcus's eyes were cold as ice. Then we force his hand. Back in the main room, the tension was palpable. Sasha sat at her station, typing furiously, while Reed stood by the window, his arms crossed, his back to the room. Marcus and I exchanged a glance. Then Marcus spoke. Reed, he said, his voice casual, can I talk to you for a second? Privately. Reed turned, his expression wary. What's this about? Just need your input on something, Marcus said. Won't take long. Reed shrugged and followed Marcus out of the room. My stomach churned as I watched them go. I knew Marcus could handle himself, but Reed was unpredictable. If he suspected anything, things could go south fast. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the door opened, and Marcus walked back in alone. His expression was unreadable. Well? Sasha asked, her voice tight. Marcus looked at me. It's done. He admitted everything. What? I said, stunned. How? Marcus smirked. Let's just say I know how to apply pressure. Where is he now? Sasha asked. Gone, Marcus said. I made it clear he's not welcome here anymore. He won't be a problem. I wanted to press for details, but something in Marcus's tone stopped me. Instead, I nodded and turned back to my station. Hours later, as the final phase of the plan unfolded, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Reed's betrayal had been dealt with, but the way Marcus had handled it left a bad taste in my mouth. What exactly had he done to make Reed confess? And why did he seem so satisfied? As the trades closed and the system purged all traces of our activity, Marcus called us together. We did it, he said, his voice triumphant. The funds are secure and the trail is clean. We're in the clear. Sasha and I exchanged a glance, both of us smiling despite the lingering tension. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of relief. The plan had worked. We'd pulled it off. But as I packed up my equipment, Marcus pulled me aside. Good work, Carter, he said. Couldn't have done it without you. Thanks, I said, though his tone made me uneasy. What happens now? Now? Marcus said, his smile razor sharp. Now we celebrate. And then we move on to the next job. As he walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Reed might have been the mole, but Marcus was something else entirely. And as much as I wanted to trust him, I couldn't ignore the nagging voice in the back of my mind. This wasn't the end, not by a long shot. The celebration was subdued, almost too perfect in its simplicity. Marcus insisted on keeping things low-key. No extravagant parties or drawing attention. Instead, he rented a private suite at a nondescript hotel downtown. We toasted with cheap champagne and sat around a small table, the weight of our accomplishments settling in. To the best damn team out there, Marcus said, raising his glass, and to the start of something bigger. Sasha and I exchanged weary smiles, clinking glasses. The tension from Reed's betrayal lingered, but we forced ourselves to enjoy the moment. After all, we'd pulled off the heist of a lifetime. Billions were funneled into offshore accounts, untraceable and safe. It should have been the pinnacle of success. But something about Marcus's words, the start of something bigger, made my stomach twist. As the night wore on, I found myself standing on the suite's balcony, staring out at the city. The skyline was a patchwork of lights and shadows, a perfect metaphor for our lives now. I sipped my drink, trying to ignore the gnawing unease that refused to leave me. You okay? Sasha's voice broke through my thoughts. She stepped onto the balcony, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. You've been quiet. I'm fine, I said, though the words felt hollow. Just thinking. About Reed? She asked, her tone cautious. I nodded. And Marcus? Something doesn't sit right. Sasha sighed. You're not the only one. The way he handled Reed, it was too clean, too quick. And now he's acting like it never happened. Exactly, I said. It's like he planned for this, like he knew Reed would betray us. Sasha's eyes widened slightly. You think Marcus set him up? I don't know, I admitted, but I can't shake the feeling that there's more to this than we realize. Before Sasha could respond, Marcus stepped onto the balcony, his usual confident grin plastered on his face. "What are you two lovebirds whispering about?" he asked, his tone teasing, but his eyes sharp. "Just enjoying the view," Sasha said smoothly, slipping back into her composed persona. Marcus chuckled. "Good, because after tonight, we'll be far from views like this." "What do you mean?" I asked, my guard instantly up. Marcus leaned on the railing, his grin widening. "We're moving. New city, new identities, new opportunities. The funds are secure and there's no reason to stay here." "Just like that?" Sasha asked, her tone laced with skepticism. "We disappear?" Marcus's grin faltered slightly. "That's always been the plan, hasn't it? Hit big, then vanish. Or did you two think we were setting up a retirement fund?" His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Sasha and I exchanged a glance, a silent agreement passing between us. "We'll follow your lead," I said, forcing a smile. "You've got us this far." "Damn right I have," Marcus said, his confidence returning. "Now get some rest. We've got a flight to catch in the morning." Later that night, I couldn't sleep. The suite was dark and quiet, but my mind was racing. I knew Marcus was hiding something, and I couldn't leave it alone. Quietly, I slipped out of bed and grabbed my laptop. If Marcus had a secret, it would be in the system. He wasn't as untouchable as he thought. The files were encrypted, but I'd seen enough of Marcus's work to recognize his patterns. It took hours, but eventually I found what I was looking for. A hidden ledger detailing every transaction, every offshore account. And at the bottom, a single note that sent chills down my spine. "Final phase initiated. Remove liabilities before departure." Liabilities. That's what Marcus thought of us. Sasha, me, even Reed. We were just loose ends to be tied up. My hands shook as I closed the file. I had to act fast. The next morning, Marcus was all smiles as we headed to the airport. He insisted on driving, and Sasha sat in the back with me. I could feel her tension, but we didn't speak. Not yet. As we approached the private terminal, Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his expression unreadable. "Problem?" I asked, feigning casual curiosity. "Nothing I can't handle," he said, slipping the phone into his pocket. "We're right on schedule." But I knew better. I'd sent an anonymous tip to the authorities just hours earlier, providing enough evidence to implicate Marcus in a dozen crimes. It was a gamble, but it was the only way to stop him. As we pulled into the terminal, flashing lights greeted us. Police cars surrounded the area, officers stepping out with weapons drawn. "What the hell?" Marcus muttered, his grip tightening on the wheel. I acted fast. "They're here for you, Marcus. It's over." Marcus turned to me, his eyes blazing with fury. "You did this." "I had to," I said, my voice steady. "You were going to kill us." Marcus lunged at me, but Sasha was faster. She grabbed his arm, pulling him back as the police swarmed the car. Within seconds, Marcus was dragged out, handcuffed, and taken away. Sasha and I sat in stunned silence as the chaos unfolded around us. "What now?" she asked finally. I took a deep breath. "Now we disappear, for real this time." She nodded and we slipped out of the car, blending into the crowd. The money was still out there, hidden in accounts Marcus would never access again. It wasn't the clean getaway we'd planned, but it was enough. As we walked away from the terminal, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of relief. The heist was over, and Marcus was out of the picture. But more than that, I finally had my freedom and a chance to start over.